So a couple of weeks ago, I was having a bit of a rough day, and I decided to listen to this album, La Ciudad by Alleh yorghaki. I noticed that as I was listening to it, my mood was improving and I was like feeling better and like happier and less sad. I thought to myself, wow, that's a pretty nice feeling. How cool is that music can change your mood or how you're feeling? So I decided to challenge myself to make a more like an upbeat song that could hopefully make somebody feel better or lift somebody's spirits. I made this song called Amor Así. I posted a YouTube video with it this past Sunday. Today I thought it'd be cool to kind of go through the production of it and like what I did, especially as someone who's more of a beginner or is still learning how to use Logic Pro and produce music and all that stuff. So let's get to it. So I used 2 kicks, a hi-hat, a bongo, and a shaker. I just used the step sequencer thing here. I'm not sure why I separated these 2 kicks. Honestly, I think I could have consolidated them into one track, but for this first track, the kick is on every beat. For the second track, the kick is on beat 4 and 3, 4 and 3, just repeating the whole time. Hi-hats are on the same beats as the first kick, so on beat 1. The bongo's on the same beat as the second kick, so beat 4 and 3, 4 and 3. And then the shaker is also on beat 4 and 3, 4 and 3. I think it's a pretty overall simple beat and it stays the same throughout the whole song. Definitely could have probably experimented with that a little bit more, but this is what the drums sound like all together. As the song progresses, I kind of turn some elements on and off in a sense. So I turned some down and then they come back into the song depending on what kind of feeling I wanted to have in that specific like verse or chorus or whatever. To do that, I used automation. So you can kind of see here where I turned down certain instruments and then they came back in. And then at one point, all of them are turned off and then they slowly come back in, kind of more in like a ladder, so they each come in separately. And that's pretty much it for the drums. I tried to make it a more groovy beat. One song in particular, La Radio, that was kind of what I was using as my main inspiration for this song. The drums come in after like this synth piano intro, and then throughout the song, again, they turn on and off certain elements to kind of have a different feeling throughout the song, accentuate different parts of the song. So that's what I tried to kind of emulate here as well. So yeah, pretty simple and straightforward for the drums. Also pretty simple and straightforward. I have this classic analog pad, and that's kind of the bass that I used. And then for the chords, I just have this classic electric piano. Those 2 things go throughout the entire song. Then for the intro specifically, in La Radio again, it's a very like synth heavy intro with piano chords and bass. At least that's what I can hear. So that's what I kind of did here. I just had like a lot of different synthy sounding instruments. I set them at like different octaves to create some depth in there. And it's just a very basic little melody motif thing that repeats twice for the intro, and then it's kind of ongoing for the whole song. And for that, I used classic electric piano, this thing called Beauty Blubbers, analog fizz lead, and steel bells. Again, they're each kind of set at different octaves just to give it that depth and complexity. Those 4 are just at the beginning and at the end. Throughout the rest of the song, it's just this analog fizz lead here. It sounds like this. And way over here in the chorus, I also add the Beauty Blubbers. And then again at the end, all of them come back in with that same melody. This is just a little transition piece that I made to go from the intro to the first verse. This is what it sounds like all together as the transition from the intro to the first verse. So it starts really heavy with all these different synths, and then it just kind of funnels into this one synth throughout most of the song. Again, that's kind of what I heard that they did in La Radio. And that is pretty much it for the instruments as well. Again, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. This song was probably the most involved vocals-wise that I've done. I had a lot of different tracks. I think I put a lot more attention to detail in the doubles and the harmonies and ad-lib things. And because of all the different effects and things I put on it, I did notice my computer was kind of lagging a bit. So that's unfortunate. But this was actually pretty fun to do. It was fun to experiment with different effects, try different things, try to achieve like a different sound than what I have been doing in the other songs that I've produced so far. So yeah, that was definitely fun. I also learned this new technique called parallel compression, and I use that for the main vocal, the lead vocal. Basically, my understanding is you have two tracks playing kind of at the same time. For the lead vocal, you have a more dry signal, which just has basic like processing and compression and stuff on it. And then you have a second track also playing at the same time, which is that same recording, but it is more like extremely compressed. This specific way of doing it I learned from my favorite YouTuber tutorial guy, The Band Guide. What he did basically was he created a track from a bus, then he sent the lead vocal tracks into that bus track. So all these tracks here don't have that extreme compression, they just have like the regular, again, processing they usually do, but then they also go through this track, through this bus, and that is where they get that more extreme compression. Personally, I feel like I tried playing around with these knobs and I feel like I don't really hear the differences between like the threshold and the ratio and the tack and things like that. So probably just need to train my ear better at hearing the differences there. So I just took his recommendations for what to do here, like setting the threshold to like -30-ish, the ratio up to like 20 or 30, and I think that was mainly it. So yeah, extreme compression, and then the band guide also put a distortion effect on there, so I did that as well, and then another de-esser. So without the vocal P comp, this is what it sounds like. And then this is with the P comp. This kind of cuts through a bit better, sounds more clear through the mix, a bit more punchier. So yeah, I really liked learning that trick, and I think I'll definitely use that in the future and play around with that more in the future. As for the processing, just on each of these individual tracks, de-esser, slight pitch correction, EQ, I just took out some of the bass, elevated some of this 8K range just so it could sound a bit brighter. Did regular compression, again, by what the band guide recommended here, just for regular compression. Finally, tape delay, just to give it a slight like echoey effect. And here you can see where I sent it to that vocal P comp bus, and I actually sent it pre-fader here, so that's why it's like blue on this side. And so that means that you send the vocal recording to the bus before any of these other effects are added on there, whereas these other two buses send the track after all this other processing is on there. These two are just different reverbs. Same thing for all of the main lead vocal here. So I have 3 pairs of doubles or layering, and then I have this final like echoes track. So this first pair is called Extra Stuff, and I panned them left and right. These I panned slightly less left and right, and these I panned completely left and right. So they're kind of sitting in different ranges. For these two, I just did a de-esser and extreme pitch correction. I kind of like how extreme auto-tune sounds. Not all the time, but I thought for the layers and like the harmonies and the doubles, it would sound kind of cool, and I did kind of like how that ended up. You don't really hear the extreme auto-tune in the main lead, but it just kind of gives a different effect. So that was pretty much all the processing on those. For these, again, de-esser, extreme pitch correction again, took out the bass and the EQ, and then I did an echo for these ones. So you can hear more of that echo as well as the extreme pitch correction. And then finally these two, de-esser, more extreme pitch correction. I actually did an amp on these ones. Amps are usually supposed to be for guitars, but I tried putting it on the vocal and I kind of liked how it came out. Without this, this is what it sounds like. So just slightly more like crunchy, gritty, grungy, whatever you want to call it. And then I also have tape delay on this one. The EQ, I took out some of the highs, so that's why it also sounds a bit muted. Finally, I did pitch shifter. And I enjoy the pitch shifting and correcting, sometimes to the extremes. I think it can be kind of fun. So here I did -12 semitones, so an octave below. For this one, all pretty much the same thing except for the pitch shift. I did it +7 semitones, which I think is a fifth above. This is it without it. I think it just sounds kind of fun. Makes it a bit more interesting. I enjoy the chipmunk sound for some reason. Finally, I have this echoes track. This one, as the name implies, has much more echoes on it than the other doubles that I have here. De-esser, extreme pitch correction, just basic EQ. I did an echo effect, and then I also did an amp here. This is what it sounds like without the amp. So again, just kind of gives it that punch and like, I don't know, it just has like that different sound that I kind of like, that you could hear it through the mix. Finally, some more tape delay. And then for this track specifically, I actually did play around more with automation, specifically with the echo and then the panning. Oh, and also the volume, I suppose. So for the panning, that was where I had the most fun, because I kind of took the sound from like one ear to the other, since it is only one track. It kind of starts in the middle and then goes from one ear to the other ear back to the middle. But I don't think you can really hear now, but maybe if you listen to a song like on headphones or something, you can hear the difference. At least I guess just watch where it's supposed to go. Since this is like the echoey effect, I thought it was kind of fun to drag it from one ear to the other, since all the other doubles and layers are like fixated to like whatever ear they're on. For the volume, I actually did adjust it a bit here as well, just because some of that feedback, especially with the amp, it was kind of like a bit too harsh on the ear. I just kind of died it down eventually. So yeah, but this song I definitely did play around a lot more with automation than I have in the other songs that I worked on, which again was kind of fun to play with. All the effects and stuff were also fun to work with and experiment with and see like what sounds I could get out of them. As far as any other automation, for these two tracks here, I did accentuate some of the echoes during a particular part that like sounded a bit boring, like there wasn't much going on in this specific section, so I tried to kind of accentuate those echoes. And that is mostly it for automation, at least. During the chorus of the song, it's kind of like a duet going on, so there's two different like lyrics and melodies playing at the same time, which I thought again was kind of fun to do. I was at first just gonna do one chorus, but then it sounded a bit empty and kind of boring, and so I experimented with adding basically the first verse just in a different melody on top of that chorus, and I really like how it came out. For example here, so this is the main lead, right? So whatever's in the main lead, I kind of made sure you could hear more clearly, and then the duet that's going on is in these like doubles tracks. So the main lead has the main chorus. A couple of these doubles tracks also have that main chorus, and then just some of the other doubles tracks have the other duet part. Like these, I think, are all one chorus, whereas these are playing the duet. So playing it all together. So there's that que locura part, and then there's that como fue que me quisiste part, and then throughout the song I kind of switch off which chorus you can hear in the main lead, with the other one duetting again in those bottom tracks and the doubles and harmonies. So yeah, that is pretty much the whole production behind the song. I think I covered mostly everything. Here is a snippet of the completed song for you to listen to. El otro día casi no me lo creía cuando yo tan enojada y tu genio nunca subía. ¿Cómo puede ser que en toda la vida que he vivido jamás conocí a alguien con tu corazón divino? Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know your thoughts, what you think about the sound, if you have any suggestions, feedback, etc., etc. If you would like to listen to the full song, go ahead and click on the video in the description box below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if there's any other artists or music styles that you want me to try to recreate in a song. Take care.